The Crown. Mary McAleese was in office when she visited Ireland in 2011. She told the Hard Shoulder here on News Talk what she thought of the popular Netflix series.
It's very watchable if you're not a member of the royal family.
That's it for now. More in an hour.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to the AA, you can find our best discounts on car insurance online. Go to the aa.ie.
Rain clearing in the west early tonight with a mix of clear spells and showers to follow. Drizzle continuing further east. Lows of 2 to 6 degrees, coldest in the Midlands and West. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
This is News Talk.
Now you're welcome along. Caoimhin Kelleher's Liverpool 1-0 up against Midtjylland. 50 minutes on the clock. Mo Salah has scored there. Liverpool obviously through already. Full schedule of Champions League games this evening. We'll keep you updated. Dan McDonnell will be along for the football show. We will also hear from Anya O'Gorman too ahead of the cup final on Saturday. Rugby's day of reckoning seems to have arrived. Class action looks imminent. We'll chat with Jamie Cudmore. He's in the midst of his own personal legal challenge, which has been ongoing for a few years now against Claremont, and he has suffered the effects of brain injury. All-Ireland hurling final this Sunday, 3:30. Shane McGrath's going to join us to preview at 7:30 this evening. And you may have heard earlier, interesting interview with Jack McCaffrey. He was on Bernard Brogan's podcast here on OTB Sports. Talked, amongst other things, about his reasons for stepping away. We'll play some of that for you around 8:40. You can get the full thing on the OTB Sports app. 53106 is the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. Richie McCormack with us as usual. Hello.
How are you, Joe? You well?
All good. And we have Will O'Callaghan. Good evening.
Evening, Richie. Evening, Joe.
Your Christmas tree continues to sparkle.
Yeah, I've actually managed to get the baubles up at this point. So slowly but surely, each day I'm getting the room a little bit more festive looking for the Newsround.
Richie, I take it the tree is gleaming somewhere in the McCormack household?
We've got two of them. Yeah, there's one down in the sitting room, and then there's like a little skinny one out in the kitchen kind of area, just to bring a little bit of razzle-dazzle to down there as well. But as you can see, the McCormack bedroom is as drab as ever.
Yes, it remains unloved, that bedroom, very much so. I saw a report on the news the other night where the bloke selling trees was saying this year quite a few families are buying 2 trees. They're just the misery has been so pent up this year that he said the 2 trends were people are buying their trees a week earlier than usual, and often they're buying 2. I
won't be surprised if people are buying real ones, that they might just be showing the type of largesse. A lot of people went early this year. A lot of people, jumped the gun and they were deciding to put stuff up towards the end of November, because this year has just been unassailably miserable. So they needed to bring some joy to their lives, and that joy was going to manifest itself through a tree in their front room. And absolutely fair play to anybody who's willing to do that. But the perils of doing that, if you're doing it in the end of November, start of December, is by the time, unless you have a pretty decent irrigation system installed in your front room, your trees can be pretty dry. So you've got people going to the bother of the week before Christmas having to get another one if they haven't gone down the faker route.
As if this year wasn't grim enough already.
My potential trip to the dump on the 7th of January, well, the recycling centre I should call it, as opposed to the dump, because exactly as Richie says, I bought mine about 2 days before the 1st of December, which is a little bit earlier than usual. I usually pick it up on the first week of December, and it is a real tree. I bought it from a guy around the corner who sells them, and yeah, I've got a really bad feeling that come the last week of December, it's going to have turned pretty brown, and I reckon the car is going to be covered in those little pin needles for about 2 weeks afterwards.
Premature, Will. Premature. That was your story. So the Newsround on Off the Ball News Talk is with thanks to Gillette. We don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters. There is a lot going on. Like I said, Jamie Cudmore, 8 o'clock. Great to have him on, given the week that's in it. He has his own personal legal challenge. Still ongoing, as I understand it. It's quite tricky and dense and complicated, but still ongoing, I think, against Claremont for what he claims was their negligence in 2015. So we'll talk to him just after 8 o'clock. Shane McGrath coming up this hour. A really good chat last night with Ken McGrath and Dan Shanahan on the hurling, if you want to dig that out. And then Dan McDonnell on the football show. So, Richie, where are we starting with the Newsround this evening?
In Denmark, Caoimhín Gallagher started a third consecutive Liverpool game this evening. The Corkman between the posts for Liverpool's final Champions League Group D game away to Midtjylland. They are approaching the hour mark. There is still Midtjylland 0, Liverpool 1, Mo Salah inside 2 minutes for Jurgen Klopp's side. Elsewhere in that group, it is currently Atalanta 0, Ajax 0. That's in Amsterdam. And as things stand, the Bergamo side will be going through to the last 16 at the expense of Ajax, with Ajax dropping into the Europa League. There was also a 5:55 resumption to last night's Group H contest, which began at the Parc des Princes. Paris Saint-Germain now leading Istanbul Başakşehir by 5-1. That game brought to a halt with just 30 minutes on the clock last night. Both sets of players left the pitch after the fourth official had been accused of making a racist remark towards Başakşehir assistant Pierre Webo. UEFA deployed an all-new officiating team for tonight's resumption, and a full investigation has been promised into last night's events. Elsewhere tonight, Manchester City are guaranteed top spot in Group C no matter their result at home to Marseille, while Porto are away to Olympiacos, who are still themselves chasing Europa League football. And meanwhile, the big story of the night could revolve around Real Madrid. They're in danger of dropping into the Europa League, or perhaps worse tonight. The 13-time European Cup winners need a win at home to Borussia Mönchengladbach to stay in the Champions League. Should they lose, they'll be out of Europe entirely. That's if Inter beat Shakhtar Donetsk. Group A's big game is in Austria, where Salzburg and Atletico Madrid fight it out to join Bayern Munich in the last 16. The defending champions complete their group campaign at home to Lokomotiv Moscow. Those games kicking off at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, incredible events last night, Will, between PSG and Istanbul. Bit of confusion, obviously, about what exactly happened. There's an investigation happening now. The fourth official faces a minimum 10-match ban if found guilty of breaching UEFA rules. So certainly, I mean, based on the TV pictures and various statements, it would seem that the Romanian fourth official, Sebastian Codescu, he was involved in the red carding of the assistant coach, Pierre Webo. And we could see on the video Webo screaming, why say negro, why say negro, why say negro, over and over again on the video. And he certainly, I mean, he certainly didn't like the words used, and was, I think, under the impression that it was a slur, a racial slur. And the Romanian fourth official, tried to almost make the point, I think, that he was using the Romanian word for black. And at that point, we then see Demba Ba understanding what the Romanian official was saying, but approaching him and saying, well, you never say that for a white guy. Why are you saying it about a black guy? And he, over and over again, you wouldn't have said that white guy. Why say it about that black guy? Why pick out that characteristic when it's a black guy? You wouldn't do it for a white guy. And they walked off the pitch, and PSG supported them. It's been described as a landmark, and I think it's to their credit they walked off. I mean, ultimately, when fans come back into the stadium, it's a rare thing where officials are the ones doing this. So this is not like this is kind of a regular issue that the players have to confront. So it's when fans come back and those instances happen that you suspect now, because of this, we are more likely to see players leaving the pitch, I would think.
Yeah, I think you've summarised the situation pretty well there. And I'd imagine if fans had been in the stadium at the Parc des Princes last night, Pierre Webo may well not have been able to hear what was shouted by the fourth official as clearly as he did in an empty stadium. But the contention from the official is that he used the Romanian word negru, which would be black in Romanian. Demba Ba, who confronted him quite clearly, and it was well picked up on the TV cameras, said that the issue wasn't just the word that was used, it was the fact that the differentiating characteristic of being black as opposed to being a white member of the backroom team that were sitting on the bench is the issue, more so than even the word that was used. It did show quite a good bit of sportsmanship from PSG to walk off the pitch, because they could easily have allowed the Başakşehir bench to go and argue with the referees, stand out there, get the result they needed to qualify for the next round of the Champions League, and not walked off the pitch. But PSG walked off in solidarity, so therefore we've had the game restart at 5-6 tonight. Neymar has done his business so far with a hat-trick. PSG are 5-1 up. They knew they were going to qualify after Manchester United's defeat against RB Leipzig last night anyway, but PSG come through this with a lot of credit, I think, with how they dealt with it. I think also Demba Ba for the leadership that he showed off the bench with the discussion he had with the fourth official has understandably got quite a few plaudits overnight as well, Joe.
Yeah, well, Ba understood the situation. He understood, okay, there's a miscommunication here, but at the same time, there is actually still an issue, in my opinion. That was the point Ba was making over and over to him again. I mean,
the problem with it is that there was no actual, it wasn't up to Demba Ba. We can commend him to the nth degree, and he absolutely deserves every bit of it. but there was no leadership from UEFA last night, as far as I can make out. Now, granted, one of their officials was at the centre of the storm, and this is a rare occurrence. But regardless, there was nearly 2 hours, I think, between the time the game was suspended and the final decision was actually made to come back the next day with an all-new officiating team and start again in the 13th minute. There seems to be, beyond the players going off the pitch and ultimately, you know, they having to make a final call, there seems to be a lot of a grey area for UEFA in terms of how they deal with these cases and how they exactly, the steps they, you know, need to take to make a call on this, because there seem to be a lot of half-hearted attempts with the Başakşehir dressing room to try and get them back out to play, a lot of coaxing them, trying to get out to play. Meantime, the PSG players are all tweeting and Instagramming their support and posting anti-racist messages, and that's all well and good, but there seemed to be a genuine lack of leadership from a UEFA level and how to deal with that situation last night, which I don't think should be allowed to replicate itself in the future. I don't think Demba Ba should be put in the position of corralling the troops, essentially, and getting everybody off the pitch. There should be some protocols in place, either about resuming these games, getting everybody, you know, within the situation to understand what's going to happen next, because that seemed to be a real absentee last night.
Yeah. To be fair to UEFA, not a sentence I'll say all that often, it was such a strange situation given the fact it was their own official who was also saying, look, I haven't actually said something racist per se here. This was not a slur, you know. So, and also it seemed that there was an initial agreement to resume the match at 9 o'clock Irish time, that had been agreed, but then obviously that changed, and then, yeah, look, it did get a bit messy, but I would imagine it's very difficult when you've got two different teams, you've got a lot of strong personalities, you've got a few people very understandably upset. I can see how it's tricky, and, you know, what's the protocol now, and, you know, it can depend on what the Başakşehir dressing room want to do or don't want to do, and it's a difficult area. I suspect it's not going to be one they're going to have to cross too often, because officials are just not going to be so clumsy and inappropriate on a regular basis. It's more fans who'll do this, but that's why it was so almost shocking last night. I should just mention Caoimhin Kelleher has dived the right way to try and save a penalty, but the penalty has been scored over in Denmark, so it's 1-1 between Midtjylland and Liverpool. We'll chat a bit more with Dan McDonnell about the PSG Istanbul situation after 9 on the football show. So Jack McCaffrey then has broken his silence, I suppose, explained his feelings on walking away.
We've kind of filled that void, of the reasons for Jack McCaffrey's decision to step away from the Dublin football panel earlier this year. The Clontarf clubman decided against pursuing a 6th consecutive All-Ireland Football Championship with Dublin. He told the Bernard Brogan podcast today that the demands of the inter-county setup had worn down his enthusiasm.
Something just wasn't right, and it probably wasn't right since halfway through the summer last year, when I just felt the fun had gone out of the whole thing, really, and I wasn't looking forward to going to training. Like, you know, I'd spoken in interviews before about the love I had for the group and stuff, and that was always true, but it just kind of suddenly wasn't really anymore, just because of changes in my life as opposed to anywhere else. And then I think what broke me was the drawn final. Like, you build up everything for this game, and it went quite well on a personal level, and obviously we didn't win, we didn't lose, thank God, but I remember shaking David Moran. I was walking off the pitch and I was walking up to the ref. I thought there was extra time, and David Moran just kind of stuck his hand out to shake my hand, and I was like, we don't have to do this again, do we?
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, I was in the stands this time, but the energy it takes personally for an individual to get to hype up for that game and to give it everything, and then to think about, I have to go back into training, I have to go back work, all of the things I have to kick out 2 weeks is a really difficult to take, isn't it?
Yeah, and like, I had incredible colleagues in Temple Street who like really covered my backside on numerous occasions for me to get out to training and stuff. And then I was at a clinic on a Thursday afternoon that following week, and if I had just said to anyone, I've got training, there would have been I was there more to learn really than anything at that point. This is a pretty specialised clinic, and I was surplus to requirements. If I'd have said I've training now at 7, I would have been told, off you go. But I just kept my mouth shut, and I stayed there till 8 o'clock, I think, and I missed training. And I was like, I can't go there. I can't. turned up and told Jim, got caught late at a clinic and didn't train, and we rolled into the next week, and thankfully everything went well. But I was so drained by that, and then I never really got it back.
Yeah, so very interesting situation when the best footballer in the country, in many people's eyes, peak of his powers, walks away, and he still doesn't have the desire to go back. You know, you might have suspected potentially the break this year might have reignited his fire. That doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, we can leap now and say, well, this proves it, the demands are too much and, you know, something's badly wrong. This is one person, and, you know, he's a very thoughtful person and has a lot going on in his life anyway. So, like, if 5 or 6 players walked away, then you might say, okay, well, then there's a serious problem there. Like McCaffrey talks about, he cites the changes in his life more than anything. The changes in his life as, you know, the reasons for the fun going out of it, or the love for the group, as he puts it, changing. So it's a personal decision. I mean, you kind of wonder, you know, when did this start, like, properly? Like, when did it set in? He says during the middle of the summer, but, like, actual thoughts of quitting, or did the demands of training change? Is it, you know, what is it that his work has become more busy? But whatever the specifics, certainly will. It didn't sound like we're going to see him back anytime soon. Now, he didn't say it absolutely could not happen or it was not possible, but the way he's feeling right now, he said, I'll play for Clontarf until I'm 47, but the demands of Inter-County seem to be too much. Yeah,
like from listening to the podcast earlier today, the impression I got was that Jack McCaffrey is not chomping at the bit to go back in with the panel in January to begin pre-season training. Yeah. And in fairness to him, the story that he told, particularly about missing that training session just 3 or 4 days out from the replay for the All-Ireland final against Kerry, is an extremely human thing, which is for a lot of us where we just don't want to do something. We put it on the long finger and then we decide to find some excuse not to be there. And that's exactly what he does. He admits, by his own admission, he could have easily went, look, I need to be at training. I need to leave work a little bit earlier today. He stays even beyond deliberately the start of training and then arrives to tell Jim Gavin that actually I got a bit held up at work, while knowing in the back of his mind that he didn't. I suppose it kind of challenges...
Sorry, on that one, because just it's like, so I get that. Do you know what I mean? I get, oh my God, a draw, because he had thought there was extra time. I get, like, it's a draw, we have to do this again. Oh my God, I don't want to go training on Tuesday. I get that. That makes total sense. It's the broader picture. It's the, well, I don't want to go back next year, full stop almost. That's the really intriguing part.
Yeah, and look, I think it challenges an assumption that we have, which is that if you were part of a panel who are going for 5 in a row, or in the case of the players who are still around this year, are going for 6 in a row, automatically you have to be 100% driven, and that has to be the only thing that's in your life. You know, Jack McCaffrey is obviously stepping up his own medical career at the point that Dublin are going for 5 in a row. And I'm sure for a lot of the players, I doubt Jack McCaffrey's alone in this. There'll be many who'd be thinking, right, I've been here, I've done that, I've won an All-Ireland. It's getting that motivation beyond that. And it's understandable if some players don't feel that. I mean, I would wonder if some of these Dublin players collect their 6th All-Ireland medal or 5th All-Ireland medal in a few weeks' time if they beat Mayo. Will that drive still be there to go back next year? It probably depends an awful lot on the player's individual circumstance. Yeah. But there has to come a point when you've won it all and won it all again that it becomes just a relief to get over the line and do it, as opposed to being aspiring to do something.
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. The pond must feel smaller and smaller. Maybe the achievement doesn't feel what it was as well for these players when you keep doing it and seemingly easily too often. So, yeah, I mean, I suspect it'll catch the ear of Desi Farrell and people in the Dublin camp, and there might be a sit down and a chat with the lads after the All-Ireland final, and who else is feeling this way, kind of a thing, because obviously when it's one, it's down to an individual. When it's more than one, it becomes a trend. And obviously with Dublin, it's so different to the other, 28 counties who don't have a chance of winning the All-Ireland.
Well, with McCaffrey, it's particularly different. Like, look at his job. It's if you're lucky enough in his position, in his job, to have a personal life at all outside of the kind of hours that you're made to work, working in Temple Street or a similar facility, for him to have to add the load of, and everybody says it's an honour and everybody says they're delighted to play for their county and yada, yada, yada. But the hours involved on top of, you know, working in a hospital, it's just, it's literally insane. Yeah. And if he wants to cut one of them adrift and it's the one that doesn't pay him, absolutely fair play.
Yeah, it's true. I think even he said at the start of the interview to Bernard Brogan, he was just off the back of a 15-hour shift, you know, so these are the demands of his personal life. We'll play a bit more of that interview after Wednesday Night Rugby. So Jamie Cudmore coming your way at 8 o'clock, and then we'll play some more Jack McCaffrey with Bernard Brogan around 8:40 or so. A full interview available on all our social channels and the OTB app. Still 1-1 between Midtjylland and Liverpool, 70 minutes on the clock. So James Horan's been talking, Rich?
Yeah, he had his media evening earlier on. He says shoring up the Mayo defence will be a priority for next week's All-Ireland final with Dublin. They conceded 3-13 to Tipperary and 8 goal chances in their semi-final win. The Connacht champions won 26 turnovers against Tip, but Tip won all but 2 of their own kickouts. Horan says turnovers are a key component of their plan yet again.
Yeah, turnovers for starters, something we'll always go after. It's that they're great fuel for a team, and they have an impact on the opposition. So that's something. But planning for the opposition to have that many kickouts isn't something we'd plan for either. There's no way. You know, we press all the time as hard as we can on opposition kickouts. But Tipperary had a lot of big guys. You know, they have a lot of very good fielders that came from their half forward line, their midfield, and their half back as well. So there's quite a few fielders. So they did very well, particularly in the second half when momentum was against us. They got a lot of ball. But look, I'd be very happy, obviously, with the turnover count, but very unhappy with our return from opposition kick out.
Text in from John and Cork. Kai Joe, is it time for Solskjaer to go? It's clearly not going to lead anywhere under him, so why bother? Also, do club legends ever really work? Dalglish, Solskjaer, Lennon, they never end well, says John and Cork. I think Dalglish worked out.
Very well. And so did Neil Lennon, to be fair, to begin with.
First time
in the first spell.
Yeah. No, I think Dalglish worked out. Solskjaer and... no, I'll give you Lennon as well, Rich. Yeah. I think Solskjaer is slightly apart from those two at the moment.
Zidane's won, 3 European Cups. Pep Guardiola won 2. It happens from time to time.
Quite a lot, actually, if we've already just plucked examples there.
Second spells are what you don't want.
Second spells are tough.
Dalglish's second spell, Lennon's second spell, Zidane's second spell seemingly isn't going to end well. So
more examples of legends who came in as managers and did a good job. I'd say there's gazillions, actually.
Ancelotti.
Davy Fitz with Clare. Ancelotti with Milan. They'll start coming in. 5-3
Jim Gavin, for God's sake, as well.
Jim Gavin, that worked out okay.
Yeah.
A. Brennan on YouTube says, the GA is not about having fun. It's about whatever you want it to be about if you're playing. You know, we're all entitled to our own perspective on what it's about. So for some, it's about just the joy of playing football to the highest level. Others might to build a brand. And for McCaffrey, I think for McCaffrey, it was about expressing himself, joy of the game, his teammates, the love of it, life experience almost. And I suspect for him, when the fun of the experience diminished, the point of it, you know, medals and having X number of All-Irelands beside his name on his Wikipedia page didn't count for much.
Yeah, but look at him at the All-Stars as well, Joe, where he is an individual. You know, we marvelled at the fact that he was one of the few people that wasn't going to script and it being all about the team on the night, and he was having a bit of fun.
I think he was high as a kite at the time, though, wasn't he?
Very possibly, but I think it showed that his behaviour was different to the players around him. Like what we kind of expect of inter-county panels, and this goes from the very top down to the teams who are just trying to catch up, is that almost like sacrifice and a stoic appearance towards the sacrifice that you make is what's expected. Like McCaffrey's a little bit of an individual and a little bit of a maverick. I don't think too many players would have admitted what he did to Bernard Brogan earlier today.
Yeah, well, maybe not. I mean, I think plenty have said it's not so much fun, for sure. It's just... where he's particularly unusual is that he's playing for the team in the country most likely to win a lot of All-Irelands over the next few years, and he's one of the best players in the country and he's in his prime. Most, even if they weren't massively enjoying it, might have stuck it out just because, you know, you get to retire an absolute legend. I guess that's kind of where he's so different. I can't think of... who's the best player in GA to have walked away in their prime like this? Is anyone? I think I'm thinking of someone obvious, but like...
not too many without circumstance where, say, injury would have ended their career early, say.
Or a job.
Voluntarily, like, man of the match in the All-Ireland final against Kerry has just put in one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. He kicked 3 points that day, I think. Left foot, right foot, ran the pitch at one stage. Phenomenal. And at full time, when it's a draw, he thinks, I'm done. Who's had that moment? I can't think of anyone. Anyway.
Challenge for the listeners.
Yeah, there you go. So Dundalk have a new sporting director.
They do. It's Jim Magilton. He's been confirmed as the FAI Cup winners' sporting director. He'll work with head coach Filippo Giovagnoli, who was given the role on a permanent basis last night. Magilton spent the past 7 years working as the elite performance director with the Irish Football Association. For the second year running, Jack Byrne named PFAI Player of the Year to date. The midfielder recognised for his role in helping Shamrock Rovers win a first title in 9 years. Byrne's boss, Stephen Bradley, has won the Premier Division Manager of the Year. Bohemians winger Danny Grant is the winner of the PFAI Young Player of the Year, but Byrne and Grant could well be looking elsewhere towards the 2021 campaign. Drogheda centre forward Mark Doyle is the First Division Player of the Year after the title win, while the man who engineered that success, Tim Clancy, has won the First Division Manager of the Year. Denise O'Sullivan took the International Women's Player of the Year, and fullback with Spurs Matt Doherty is the Overseas Player of the Year. And something to touch on with Dan later on in the football show, I know he's been tweeting about it in the past hour or so. 2 Limerick outfits are among those who've been cleared to apply for a League of Ireland licence. Treaty United and Limerick FC both wish to be part of next season's First Division, as do Shamrock Rovers too, who are part of the 2020 campaign. Also in the running, the surprise package, American and UK-backed company called Irish Sea Limited, who trade under the name of Dublin County FC. Dan has unearthed some screen caps from their website, and it is a trip, to say the least. They have the likes of former Premier League footballers Chris Macon and Jamie Fullerton among their backers, as well as the people who are behind the New Jersey Teamsters, who play in the lower leagues of US football, and they very much want in to the Irish setup, it seems.
Okay, very good. Competition time. All this weekend off the ball, we're giving you the chance to win some tasty non-alcoholic beer plus €250 for your troubles. Soul Beer is the new Irish non-alcoholic light lager packed full of vitamins and minerals designed to improve immune health, brewed using all natural ingredients. And because it's nearly Christmas, Soul Beer have a month's supply to give away each day, along with €250. Just identify our mystery voice. Forget about COVID issues. 12 pubs not possible if you eat a meal every stop.
By the time you fill it steak arrived, it's 1 o'clock.
Text your name and answer to 53106. We'll announce our winner before the end of the show. What an image that is, by the way. Text your name and answer 53106. We'll announce our winner before the end of the show, all with thanks to So Beer. You can check out so.beer for more. Richie, thanks a mil. And he's gone. Will O'Callaghan, thank you as well. So post 8 o'clock, we have Jamie Cudmore talking concussion rugby. Day of reckoning has been coming for some time. It seems it's here now. And up next, Shane McGrath will join us to preview Limerick Waterford in the All-Ireland hurling final.